Hey everyone, you're here with Mark and Stig on Perfect Gardens TV. So today we are here to set the story straight. My last video I just released, it said going from 2 pounds to 45 pounds. And there was a couple comments that said this is impossible. So what I did is just brought Stig back onto the channel because he was correct. I was a little off. And set the story straight. And we're going to break down where Stig got started, his first, second, and third grow with me, and the nutrients he's using, and his overall experience grow after grow after grow. So Stig, will you please introduce yourself? I know you've already been on the channel a couple times, but please introduce yourself and we'll go from there.
I guess it was a couple of years ago I stumbled upon your channel and I joined the 299 group. It is a great community, but I felt that maybe I needed some more help. So I contacted you and we got the VIP program going and we were switching. I think you were talking to me to switching to raw nutrients. So we did that grow with, I don't know the size of gallons of the pots, but it was 9 pots in a 4x4 area. First of all, I had a problem with early a lot. I think I did 3 grows in a row where you get the seeds that you don't want in the buds. And I think that had to do with stressed out plants and me not knowing how much to put in and everything. But anyways, when we did that first raw nutrient line grow, we had some issue there as well, but it still was maybe, I was writing it down. 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. And I think I maybe got like 4.5 maybe, something like that on those earlier grows.
So to recap on that grow, this was the first grow we ever got started with. I believe you had just purchased the raw, I think.
The only time I used the raw nutrient line.
Yeah,
and we had a pH issue there that we didn't recognize as well. So that could have gone a lot of better if we had. But anyways, that's ancient history now. But before that, I was doing around, let's say, 4 to 5 pounds per grow. And I think I was using an extra light. I'm using 4 lights now, and I think I was using 5 lights then.
So then what happened on the second grow?
I'm still on the raw nutrient line grow. And before I got into the garden group, 299 garden group, and using 9 pots in a 4x4 space with 5 lights. So that was what I was coming from.
Was it 45 pounds the whole grow?
No. 4.4 pounds. Let's say 4 to 5 pounds per grow at that time with 5 lights.
Okay.
Something like that. But then we had a long discussion and you asked me like these sawgrass, saw beds and going all working with the microbes, going all, sorry for lack of words.
Living soil biodynamics direction.
So, yeah, going down that road. And yeah, I said, what the hell, I want to try this. I got to know you and I trusted you and we had a good bond and I was like, yeah. So I bought 4 saw beds, 4x4, and you helped me to get the down to earth dry amendments mix that we did first. So we did a base mix, and maybe you want to step in here to talk more about what we use, or is that not interesting?
No, what we ended up on the second grow, we ended up using
about the first grow in the
grow beds.
With the grow beds, yeah.
Correct. Sorry, but first grow in the grow beds, second grow we're doing together. We do I switched over to the 4x4 grow beds from Grassroots Fabric Pots. You can find them on perfectgardens.com. And then also with what we're using is down to earth, the 444, the alfalfa, kelp, and langbonite. And then we're using drops of balance and BAM.
Yeah, and blood meal and bone meal and drops of balance.
And organic shield.
That was also a big thing getting drops of balance was a big thing for my pH problem.
Originally, your water was so clean, it was coming out like a parts per million of 1 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I did an analysis on the water for like $100, and you looked at that report and said it wasn't terrible and it wasn't great, but the pH was dropping uncontrollably low. I don't think we figure out why yet, but drops of balance did something that stabilized the pH. So that was
that was actually kind of interesting, because normally it goes alkaline. For some reason, it was staying super acidic, and I remember that we could not figure out why that was being caused. And yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because I even got tried an RO system and it didn't work that there either. So we really tried, but then I got your first shipments of drops of balance, and that kind of changed a lot of things for me. And also I think when you're growing with microbes, it's just not so sensitive to the pH is in. If you're growing with a salt-based nutrient, it can handle a little more difference in the pH than salt.
100%.
Yeah. So, but I still pH every time every watering I do, I use BAM and drops of balance.
This is also another good point too, because water problems are really interesting. And a lot of times we can identify why it's doing what it is, right? And then create a solution around it. But sometimes we don't know why it's doing what it's doing, but how our first step of how to solve a water problem always stay the same. Treat it with drops of balance. And if you're growing, use microbes, because microbes will help create the environment that between the relationship because they want things from the plants, right? So they create this relationship, and from there they're going to create an environment that's conducive for them. So even though we didn't know the why around that water issue, our initial steps to solve the problem stayed the same.
Yeah, but and also I wanted to emphasize how important it is when you water whatever container you're in. Whatever, don't just put all the water in at once, because we have talked a lot about, when I'm watering my soil beds, I do it in 8 to 10 pours, and I wait, let's say 5 to 10 minutes in between each fabric bed. And I think that is a really important thing to say to people, that if you're going to pour in whatever gallon it is, you have to put it in steps. Otherwise, it will create problems when it just goes through the beds, like those, what do you call them? Water always finds the easiest way down the path.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an important thing to say, because that was something you learned me early on.
It's so important, because a lot of times we don't realize how fast water will find its quickest path through an obstacle. And then once it does that, salt deposits begin to form. And before you know that, it used to begin, dry pockets begin to happen. And the great examples are rivers, right? You go to a river and you have the river flowing, and then maybe walk 20 feet and the soil is totally dry. Why doesn't the water keep penetrating that soil further and further and further? It's because over time it's built up its own canal system, in a way of keeping the water in the path it's supposed to go. And so absolutely, and I love what you're doing, because these are some of the key details.
Not many people talk about these basic principles, because if you have the right water, like right pH, or using drop of the balance, if you don't have that, you're not going to have a successful grow. And if you're watering in an inappropriate way, it's not either going to be a successful grow. So it's very important to learn these basic things that I think a lot of people don't think about.
so let me ask a couple questions because I want to get the story straight on how much you yielded, right? It's a huge claim from going from when I said 2 pounds to 45 pounds. And so you said the first set one correct. You were averaging around 4 to 4.5 pounds with the 5 light system. The second grow, what did you yield in smokable flour? Like not big nugs, not the popcorns.
Yeah, it was around 12 pounds.
And then how about the popcorn bud?
I think it was 600 grams. So one
Pound and a half.
pound is 450. So let's say 1.5 popcorn buds.
Okay, so right there, you're at let's say, we're just to round it up, 13.5 pounds. So how about your trim, though? Did you ever
I don't
weigh your trim?
know because we were talking about this, and I can't get dry ice, so I tried to freeze it in the freezer and use a screen, and it was too much hassle. I didn't, and also it's nothing that I personally use, but I didn't think it was worth the trouble. So I throw that away. But
And
for other people, I mean, it's a lot of trim when those sugar leaves. I had a little wing.
not the fan leaves. We're not talking about the fan leaves. We're talking about the sugar leaves that you actually trim off right next to the flour, and those fall. That's what we're talking about. So could you say possibly how much trim do you think you possibly might have trimmed off 13.5 pounds? And I ask everyone out there, when you go trim a pound, how much trim do you get off 1 pound, right? And then times it by 13.5. I would say, and let's do the numbers real fast, right? Is it? And we're gonna play the game. Is it possible?
Yeah, because I have no idea, but it must be a lot because I have a separate bag where I throw when I separate the popcorn buds from the really nice, and then they go into a drying process, and then I dump all the sugar leaves from that trim into another bag. And that bag, I mean, that's getting full pretty quick.
Okay, so out of 13.5 pounds, all we have to get is 24 more ounces to get to 15 pounds of biomass. Now, I'm changing the term from smokable flour to biomass. And because anyone that's in this industry, that trim or small popcorn bud is what you want most of the time for extraction, right? It's been the
I tried it once with the Keith and stuff like that. So I mean, I understand it's usable, but I couldn't say the numbers. So you have more experience than me to tell if 13 pounds of dry flour, how much of sugar leaf is that? And then comes the question, how much heat or whatever you call it could you get out of those sugar leaves? That is something I don't know as well, because I haven't tried it.
All we need is 1.7 ounces per pound of sugar leaf or trim.
Yeah.
To get to 15 pounds. So right there.
Okay.
So first grow, is it possible to get 1.7 ounces per pound of trim? Is it possible? I ask you guys out there because I hate it when I tell people 2 to 45 pounds and then I get a stack of comments saying that's impossible. You're a liar. You're a scam artist. All this other BS. So I'm breaking it down for you guys right now. I'm trying to tell you this is valuable material that you get 13.5 pounds. He got 13.5 pounds, but then more than likely he got at least 1.5 pounds, if not more, of trim. If you take that 13.5 pound, take that 1.5 pounds of trim, we're hitting 15 pounds of biomass. So let's talk about the second grow real quick. Second grow, you had enough down to earth, so we didn't have to repurchase anything. Just we kept the same systems and processes, right?
Yeah. And it was some sort of miscommunication between you and me, or me not thinking, like I did something called a no-till, where I didn't re-amend the soil. I just top dressed it. And like in week 3 in flower, we were seeing some deficiencies, and that hurt that yield a lot, I think. So because I'm living in where it's illegal to grow, so I will never take notes and write down exactly how much, because that is something that could be used against me. But I think I was, on that one, I was around 3.5 kilograms. So let me just, what is it? 3.5 times 2.2, 2.2. So that was about an 8 pounds of dry flour, and then some popcorn buds as well. So maybe like a pound of popcorn buds.
Let's put you at 9 pounds, right? So using the same math from before, 9 times 1.77 ounces, that's now another pound. So we're at 10 pounds. So first grow, we hit 15 pounds. Second grow, we hit 10 pounds. And really, Sig and I have been together now, we're going on 3-4 years.
Yeah, 3 at least. Yeah, maybe. We know each other.
Long time. We really have.
Yeah.
And the room is not just like the program I have is going to get you 80% there, right? It's going to get your feet wet. It's going to get you to understand what's happening. We're going to plug the holes so we're not losing any more money, and we're going to get you to a successful harvest and yield you more overall. Like this, that's almost a guarantee whenever you sign up with the VIP membership. Though, and for that, most growers I work with, that's enough for them because they yield enough that lasts them for years because they're trying to get, a couple ounces and now they're yielding pounds and they're like, okay, I don't need to grow anymore for a while. Then like Stig and a few other growers, they really want to refine their process. And what we do, the room's a living room, right? And so like he was saying, the second grow, we both are learning that grow. We're both learning that grow together, right? And I have a 30,000 foot view because I listen to everything and I process it and I'm like a sounding board for him. And through this process, we were navigating how often we have to re-amend the soil, not based upon how fast these plants are growing and how fast the new dry amendments break down over time, right? And that's basically what happened on the second grow, because that's been the thing we've been refining for the last, all the grows, even up to this one even. It's like, okay, I think we agreed to make an adjustment on the dry amendments again on this last one we just finished, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we had one in between there after the problem with the...
Oh, tell us about that one. Tell us about that one. That's grow 3, right?
Yeah, so 3, now we are still using the down-to-earth mix. So we came to a conclusion that I need to add, I think it was 3 to 4, no, it could be 3 to 4 pounds of dry, whatever the dry amendment. So I take a hay fork and I get in there and I mix it and so now we have identified that problem. I still top dress every 14 days. I still top dress, and on week 3 of flower, I will add an extra amount of langbeinite for the potassium, the 0022. But then I got hit with a really hard winter. So it was minus 33 Celsius. And I just remember, because I looked over the data, because I have sensors in the grow room area, and we were down as low as during night times when the lights wasn't on, I was down to 53 Fahrenheit. And that's when the plant stopped growing. And I couldn't do anything about it because I couldn't put in any more heat in there because my electric, I don't have the words, but it was the fuse were going. Let's just say
I have
that.
pictures of that winter. I will.
Yeah. It was, but I'm better prepared for this winter coming up now. So I have rerouted some stuff, and because it's not uncommon to have that kind of dip here, but I wasn't ready for it. This winter I will be. So I think that grows. So we are in the third grow now. I yield probably the same that I did the second one.
So that cold winter, you yielded the same amount you yielded the second one.
Pretty much. I don't have the exact numbers because the reason why I remember the first one, the first really successful one, is because it was so successful, going from 4 to 5 pounds to 13 pounds. That's something you're going to remember, because I don't want to put things down in my notebooks like kilograms and stuff like that, because in the case I get caught, I don't want them to have any evidence. So, but I still have a general remembering things like, but not exactly. But moving on to this grow, we did a new mix because the shipping from the US to Europe is insane. Let's just say that. So we had to find a Scandinavian supplier of dry amendments. So we did some research and we did a new, so this is the first grow with a totally new mix. We use Betguana, Insect Express, Langmanite. That is still from down to earth though. Bone meal, blood meal, alfalfa meal, and kelp. So I'm done with the harvest.
This was the first grow. This was the first grow
with the new.
We had to make. We basically copied the down to earth to the best of our ability with local amendments that he could find and source, because it's so expensive in shipping, right? And so through that process, we were able once again to help reduce his overall costs. We got the name brand in the beginning, got wise, reduced our costs because we understood what we were actually purchasing.
Yeah. And since I don't have the final number on this grow yet, but the thing I can compare it to is when I trim so I do a 2 harvests. I do a first harvest when I do just the tops, and then I let it sit for another, depending on when I want to do the second harvest, because I want to give it at least 10 days to maybe 15 to 16, or maybe even 2 weeks to get all the things is underneath is kind of covered by light, so you get more dense buds and better, everything gets better. I have just finishing trimming the tops. The weight of the tops were the same as the first grow that we did that was successful. But I don't know because I haven't started trimming the second harvest yet. So I don't know if it's going to be as successful as the first one. But yeah, we will know in one.
But what you yielded on the tops are comparable to the first grow.
To the first really successful grow. Yeah.
And what's cool about this is by the time this video gets edited and released, more than likely you'll have the remainder trimmed. Will you do me a favor? Can you weigh your trim?
Do you mean the sugar leaves?
The sugar leaves. Have you already thrown away the other material?
Yeah. The only thing I need to do is that's no problem, to take away all the stems and stuff, and just to see if I have 24 plants. So I have 4 4x4 beds, and I have 6 plants in each bed, and I hang them. So first I do the harvest of the tops, and then I put them on a string, like a coat hanger. Is that the correct pronounce?
Yep.
Yeah. And then when I do the second harvest, I hang them as a whole. So if the whole plant I hang. So
Stig follows our Perfect Gardens process. You know, the core program,
66,
all of it to like the T.
66.
Absolutely.
I mean, should I mention how I do my harvest or my drying process? So I try to keep it at 60 or 60 degrees Fahrenheit, about 60% humidity, and it takes about 16 to maybe a little bit more for it to dry. So that's the 60-60. I think a lot of people have heard of it because I've seen a lot of videos about it, and that's a good way to dry if you have the ability. But of course, it's going to shift a little bit, but I'm trying to keep it at that level. So 60 Fahrenheit and 60% of relative humidity.
15 years ago, when I named the company, I actually changed the name of the company from Green Joint Ventures to Perfect Gardens. And I remember thinking about our core values as a company and my core values as an individual, right? And I was thinking, you know what? I want to have the name of the company be our standard for growers. If they really want to have a relationship with the company and really want to go into like a one-on-one consulting experience, I literally want the name of the company to be the standard, right? And in Stig, I have a couple Jasons. I'm going to miss a few different names, but there's a number of my VIP growers that literally followed this core program to the T at like the first 80% of it, and then based upon each individual grow, we have adjusted the last 20% to customize it for their situation. And the reason why I go back to Stig and really want to document its grow every few months or every grow or once or twice a year is because, you know, this is, you know, go out there to other grow consultants and ask them their metrics. Say, if we follow your procedure or your steps, how much are we going to yield grow after grow after grow after grow? Or year after year, right? Like what is those statistics? Well, with Stig, we and a number of other people, we have those statistics, right? If you follow this, I mean, living systems biodynamic program that we've developed, and it's not like my program, right? I'm telling you, you heard it, down to earth, drops of balance, bam, OrganiShield. I mean, literally, we're talking about 7 products. Maybe there might be a few other ones. Obviously, lights, a couple other things, but it's it's probably the simplest program in this entire industry. Probably when you compare bottles and what everyone recommends and all these other things, but it pays off. And so,
yeah, and I also want to mention the quality of the smokable, of the enjoyment of smoking something with a salt base. I don't know if it's in my mind or if it's not, but I have a lot of, let's say, friends that have said to me that after switching from a salt base to a natural base, they can taste the difference. This is a new level that they told me after the first grow. That is a very important thing as well, because at the end of the day, you really want to enjoy your product as well.
You know, Stig is someone that doesn't smoke very often. He smokes occasionally.
Microdosing.
Microdose. Very tiny amount, right? And so he himself is very sensitive to the plant. Other people that use it on a daily basis, really that have gotten used to the feeling, they understand the difference between product that is smokes clean, doesn't have heavy metals. You know, I tell people, go check out the 2023 field study report with, again, drops of balance that removes the heavy metals. Like, we don't understand how these heavy metals affect us as we smoke, right? And affect the high and the whole experience, right? And my point is, the Stig really has to rely on he has to actually wait for his feedback from multiple chains, right? Because products given to a distribution company that they can get spread out to clientele. So then the clientele had to get back to the distribution company, then get back to Stig. And Stig doesn't talk to distribution company except literally a couple times a year. So it's really interesting, when Stig gets back this feedback and says, hey, we really noticed a difference, because Stig's been waiting for that information for 6 months.
The difference when I switched to organic, they said, this is next level. What was the short answer? So that was the response. And I haven't had any complaints after that as well. I did have some complaints prior to that, but never since I switched to organic. There are like, when are you ready? Trim faster, trim faster. I was just meeting my guy this day, and he ended up coming here and picking up the tops. And I just got a message from him, and he was super happy. I'm going to make people happy this weekend.
It's really interesting. Even in places where it is still highly illegal, people are expecting a higher quality, right? Even here in the United States, where the club weed sucks. It's horrible. Everyone knows it, right? And when they get good product, high quality product, they can still tell the difference. And everyone says, oh, the market's crashing. The market's crashing. There's no more market left. Trust me, there is still a market, because there's always going to be a good market for high quality medicine, because 99% of the industry is following the recommendations of everyone else, right? They're not taking into consideration their water quality, taking consideration how the importance of living soil and their microbiology. So it's a conversation that's on the table. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the insight in the legal part of the world where it's legal, but I hear, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I can kind of get that feeling that the big companies has taken over and just producing it because they want to get the most bang for the buck, but they don't care about the end product. Is the feeling I got. Is that the correct opinion?
No, I absolutely. I got that same opinion, and I always wonder. My brain doesn't mean to create a conspiracy, but sometimes it does. And I wonder what tobacco would be like if we use these same techniques. Because recently I've been enjoying a little bit more tobacco, or I actually never in my life, but I've recently, because I smoke, I roll spliffs for my partner. And so I'll light it for her, and I'll and get it going, and I could feel all the terpenes throughout my entire mouth, in that different from the cannabinoids, right? And I started realizing, and I heard years ago that someone said that cannabis keeps you grounded, but tobacco sends your thoughts up into the ether, right, up to heaven, right? And
no, I haven't smoked with tobacco leaves yet.
Okay.
I use a pipe because I'm microdosing. I have to add some tobacco because otherwise it would be too strong. So I use the tobacco, the negative tobacco from cigarettes. Otherwise the doses will get too high for me if I would just put cannabis in pipe. So I have to mix it with some tobacco, but I mean, that's my problem. We don't have to talk about that.
I love you, Stig. Okay.
I would, yeah, but I saw that one time that they were rolling up the joints with the tobacco leaf, and yeah,
interesting. Yeah. So my point to all this is, I do wonder if, I don't know if it's their intention to do this, but what happens if Big Pharma, just like how they took over, just how Big Tobacco uses petrochemicals to grow their stuff, and what if like their terpenes have reduced so much that we don't get the full access to the tobacco medicine, right? And if they take over cannabis, what happens if low quality starts getting produced to the point where we lose access to ganja, to cannabis?
Yeah, when I was in a big city, I treat myself to a very expensive cigar, and just obviously I don't take that down my throat, but just, a high quality cigar is kind of where we can see a difference from everyday cigarette.
Absolutely.
So I don't have the time, but I would like to grow tobacco one summer, just a couple of ones.
Me too.
To see, just to see the drying process is similar to cannabis and stuff like that. And in Scandinavia, we use it to make. I don't know if you know what we Scandinavian put under our lips. It's tobacco with salt and nitrate. I don't know, but it's very specific for the Scandinavian countries to use tobacco. It's not chewing tobacco, something like that. It's something I always use. And then I saw a website on Swedish people growing it and chopping it up and using it to make their own whatever, because there is not an English name for it or an American name for it, because it's very, very local to Scandinavia, this thing we put under our lips. But it's mainly tobacco and salt baked in an oven.
I'm at visit you.
Yeah.
So Stig, is there anything else you want to share with the group? So 15, 10, 10, 5,
I'm just
waiting for the results.
No, I mean, I'm just glad that we are being totally transparent on what we are doing here, because I also saw the comments and I mean, this is great. We are having a totally honest conversation. Will I have trouble in the future? Of course. Will I have success? Hopefully, yes. But I consider the success. I mean, I will always strive for doing better next time. That's what's keeping me going.
I'm going to have you back on one more time or when you get the end yield on this crop with the biomass, will you test that to me? Because I'm going to make sure I include this in the video, because then that's going to self-correct it. Because let's say you get 3 ounces of trim per pound. Well, now we've just doubled that.
Yeah.
That means that you yielded almost 17 pounds on your first grow, right?
Yeah. But I mean, the things we are facing for this next grow is we had a little bit of a potassium deficiency at the end, so we are trying to correct that on the upcoming grow. So we are still in a progress of making a recipe for a strain, you can say. That's the end goal, that if you keep it with this temperature, this humidity, this amount of time, and then you have a recipe for a strain. Then you move on to the next strain if you want something else. And that's my kind of goal. As many recipes for each strain, so I can grow them and know that, because I don't use clones or a mother plant, because I don't have the time to maintain it. So I have never done that. So I always use seeds. So there could also be a variation where you buy your seeds, but still it's the end goal for me is to get a recipe for a strain, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, literally the majority of the recommendations I've made, you've really have taken them and you said, okay, let's go with this. I mean, some of them you are already doing, and this was one of them. Pick 1 or 2 strains, figure them out, and buy it.
Take good notes, important notes throughout the whole grow. Temperature, humidity, and so on and so on. You can go on forever, but you don't need to overdo it if you know what to document.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Stig. I look forward to releasing this and again the last bit of this information so we can get it out there for the community.
We are. Absolutely. I'm always here to talk. I love to talk about cannabis because I can't do it with any others, because I'm so afraid of getting caught. So it's nice to have you to talk about it so freely.
We really have gotten to know each other actually over the last 4 years. I mean,
really.
I'm trying to figure out. I've already talked to my partner Elizabeth, and I'm like, we got to go visit Stig. Okay, we have to visit him. When we start traveling, we were able to save up enough money. He's one of the first people we're going to come visit. She's already said, okay, not a problem.
Oh shit, we're gonna have a good time. That would be amazing.
I look forward to it, brother. All right, I'll let you go, and I'll talk to you on WhatsApp app.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for listening, and yeah, have a good one, everybody.
You too. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, guys.